I would see Carly wearing the same outfit that I sent her to dad's in yesterday, the day before. So that caught my attention. And then, her hair, I would notice it, or the rat's nest in it, I'd feel it, the knots underneath. And then October came when I was picking up those few times. I'm like, oh, you didn't get a bath halfway through the week already.
Today we are set for a evidentiary hearing to address custody, parenting time, and support. This is a referral to the front of the court following a consent support judgment. Ms. Martin, you are the plaintiff. I will first inquire of you. What is your request as to the custody and parenting time in this matter?
I'm actually asking for full custody, full legal and physical custody of the children.
Okay. And sir, what is your request as far as custody and parenting time?
I'd like to continue our 50-50 that we've been doing the last few months up until about a month ago. We've been doing 50-50 week on, week off with them.
Okay, so what we'll do then, since the parties don't have an agreement, is we'll take testimony from the parties and the court will issue a recommended order. Ms. Martin, you are the plaintiff, so we will start with you first. Could you please raise your right hand?
Yeah.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. All right. Okay, ma'am, this is your opportunity then to testify and provide any evidence that you wish to provide in support of your position.
Did you receive the binder that I dropped off to friend of the court?
There is a binder that was presented to me, yes.
Okay. That has the parenting plan, the scheduled time, everything. The journal entries that I've kept of, logged of everything that has happened since March between the parenting time.
1 second, man. Mr. Fournier, are you having difficulty with her audio?
Yeah, it's breaking up really bad on mine too.
All right, so Ms. Martin, let's try this. Sometimes if you stop your video, then your audio is better. So I did get the binder. If you want to introduce part of that as an exhibit, we have to go through, we have to make that specific request, and then we have to address whether or not there's admissible evidence in there or not, or if there is an appropriate objection. So how do you want to handle your binder? I see there's a letter to start the binder. That's probably not be admissible evidence.
Okay, but that was a character reference letter written.
I cannot accept a letter written by somebody else that is hearsay.
Okay. I guess we can start with the parenting plan that I have in there, or the first page of it has a letter to you, what I'm asking. In that letter, it states I'm asking for full legal and
the letter. I'm not going to accept the letter as evidence, but if you want to, this is your chance to provide testimony. So if you want to say things that are in that letter that you want to put on the record, you can.
Okay. Like I said, I'm asking for full legal, physical, and custody. I was also asking to request a DNA test done for Carter.
All right, so the DNA test will not come from this court. There's already an order in place that says he is dad. So if you want to challenge that order, you're going to have to file specific motions to address that. So I cannot make that determination today because there's already a order in place saying he is dad. So if you want to challenge what was already entered as an order, that's going to be a separate issue for you to address with the court and not through today's hearing. So this is your chance then to tell me why you think it's appropriate for you to have physical.
Okay. So Brandon and I started off by doing a week up in March. A lot of problems occurred. I've offered Brandon different parenting time alternatives. He shot them all down. And then to do week on week, rotating weekends.
So, sir,
during the week.
1 second, ma'am. Sir, are you able to hear her okay, or are you still getting that feedback? Because or the muffled sound?
Yeah, it's muffled and kind of, yeah, it's rough hearing her.
I can pick up the gist of what's being said, but it's difficult and probably would not be good for a court record how muffled it is. So, Ms. Martin, if you want to try signing off on the phone, we'll see if that works.
Okay.
All right, so we have Ms. Martin back. And Ms. Martin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, so that certainly sounds better. So, all right, you were discussing kind of the way the parenting has gone between the two of you, and you can continue your testimony.
Okay, so I've offered to Brandon that I keep the kids during the week. He's more than welcome to take them whenever Brandon works. His schedule is not set. I've always told him he's more than welcome. If he gets off at a decent time, come get the kids whenever. We live 7 minutes apart away from each other. He's never reached out. He's never asked or said, hey, I'm home. Can I get them? This is the first week since the beginning of October that he's actually said, hey, I'm home. Can I get the kids? I brought them right over. I've tried communicating with him about things, different alternatives. He hasn't worked with me at all. So this is, we resorted to this. I told him we could continue doing every other weekend like we have been. Just, I'd like to continue making decisions for the children for appointment wise. I've never told Brandon he couldn't participate in coming to the children's appointments. He's never asked to come to them. I've always scheduled them, made sure the children have come to them. I've left work to make sure that they went to them when the children have been ill. I've stayed home from work with them. The parenting plan I made has each parent will have, I'll get Mother's Day, he gets Father's Day. It has rotating holidays back and forth. I put in there that once a year, Brandon can request to have the children for a week with no interruptions for me. What did I put in there? I put if Brandon ever comes, homeless or, living situation gets interrupted, obviously, or myself, kids would go to Brandon or vice versa. There's quite a few things in here.
Give me kind of a history of the relationship of the two of you, when you lived together, stopped living together, that kind of thing.
Brandon and I got together, was it December of 2018? We started living together, like very soon after that. And then, so the rental that Brandon currently lives in, we moved in that together with our daughter Carly. And then Brandon and I hit a rough patch. I say this would be about, this was summer of 22 when we split. That's when I got pregnant with Carter. Things escalated from there. We ended up getting back together. It still wasn't very a solid relationship. And then in March, I guess he said he wanted a break. He was seeing someone else. At the time, I was looking for a house to buy. Well, I thought we were, but I ended up getting the house. Brandon stayed at the rental. Well, Brandon moved out of the rental for a minute. And then I stayed at the rental until the move-in date of the house that we just purchased. And then he moved back in the rental when I moved out. And we've been doing week on, week off since. We practiced that up until, oh gosh, so that was, I want to say September, or was it November? It was up until September 11th. It was when we kind of stopped doing week on, week off. That week, Brandon called me asking me if I would keep the kids during his week. He got asked at work if he could work nights. And I said, yeah, of course I'd keep the kids while he worked nights. So I kept them. And then that weekend came of the 22nd of September. And he took them for the weekend. I got them back. I asked him if he wanted to continue rotation. He said no. So I kept them back. So I had them for 3 weeks in a row. The other agreement we had was while I kept them during his weeks that he worked out of town, I would keep them while he worked out of town or he worked nights, that we wanted when Brandon worked late, or Brandon works in the oil field, so he works late and the kids get out of daycare around 4:30, and I work 2 blocks from them at the hospital, and they go to Little Sprouts daycare. So I said, because Carly's been struggling with her emotions, a lot of crying episodes. We recently had a foster child. She's been struggling with him not being around. So I said she needs to spend a lot more time with a parent rather than during his weeks, Brandon's babysitter, which is Brandon's mother, rather than until bedtime or the little bit Brandon gets to spend with them. So I was picking the kids. I would pick the kids up. And then when Brandon got home, I would bring them straight to Brandon's house. It was 2 days into Brandon's week. Brandon got upset because Brandon's mom texted me to bring the kids to his house, and I didn't respond to it because I felt that parenting is between Brandon and I, and she doesn't have any legal rights to them. This was around 4:45 when she messaged me. She told me Brandon was on his way home. So I didn't respond to it. I was just waiting for a text from Brandon. Brandon messaged me 2 hours later asking if I got the message from his mother. And he said he was almost home. I said, I got it, but I was waiting for him to message me. And I said I would get the kids loaded up, bring them over. And so I brought them over. And when I dropped them off, Brandon still wasn't home. And after I dropped them off, got home, Brandon sends me a message, disagreeing, saying that we're not doing this anymore, that, he's going to have his mom, his babysitter, pick the kids up from daycare, that I'm controlling the situation. And it just it fell apart from there. So it's like we had an agreement, but it was 2 days into what, we had, and it didn't go well. So.
All right. So when you guys split, you set up in 2022, you had a brief break. How long was that time frame where you guys were not together?
It had to have been like 5 months. It was like the entire summer.
And during that time, how was the parenting time being handled for Carly?
Well, we would still live together at the rental. So she still went to daycare regularly. It wasn't that bad up until Brandon knew I was pregnant.
All right. So you guys didn't actually live apart. So you were in the same residence together during that breakup.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Then you moved. So that was March 2023, kind of when you started living separately.
Yeah. Brandon, I don't remember the exact date in March. I know Brandon started staying with his friend's dad in the basement, taking his clothes over there, staying. But I know on March 26th is when he left our foster kid's birthday party to fully take all of his stuff to move out of the house.
Okay. And your current residence, you indicated you bought a house, is that correct?
Yeah.
And how many bedrooms in that house?
3.
And who else lives there besides the 2 kids?
My boyfriend and his daughter.
And how are the bedroom arrangements for the children? Are a couple of them sharing a bedroom, or how is that situation?
Yes, Carter is sharing a bedroom.
And what is your employment status?
I work at full-time at Munson Hospital in the ER.
And how long have you had that job?
Gosh, I've been there since, sorry, I have to look at a calendar. I think the middle of September.
And prior to that, what did you do?
I worked at Pepsi briefly, and then before that, I worked at Bear River for 2.5 years.
Do you have any plans to move in the near future?
No.
Do you have any concerns with the moral fitness of Brandon and his ability to care for the children?
My only concern is that Brandon's not physically there with them. He doesn't have, due to his, he works so long in his hours and his drive time for work. During the week, he's not physically there. The weekends he's available, when we had an exchange to switch weekends at one time, he wasn't reliable to pick up the children either. So that's why I always make sure that I take the children to the appointment, because he wasn't reliable to pick the kids up from a babysitter.
Do you have any mental or physical health issues that impact your ability to parent?
No.
Do you think Brandon has any mental or physical health issues that impact his ability to parent?
No.
Do you think he's ever done anything to impact or negatively impact the relationship between you and the children?
Sometimes I question Brandon when, life circumstances. Sometimes Brandon goes on drinking binges when he gets frustrated and can't handle things at times.
Is there any domestic violence in your relationship?
No.
When you were together, how were kind of the duties for caring for the children addressed? Were you both doing things? Was one of you doing things?
Well, Brandon works so late that pretty much it was the routine. I had the routine with the children, I drop them off at daycare, pick them up, bath, bedtime, dinner. During the week, it was regular routine for me to do everything. And, Brandon get home when he got home. And then weekends, Brandon, he would take part in if we went and did an activity with the kids, but he just didn't have the time.
When you were together, were you the one handling doctor's appointments and those type of things?
Yes, I do the doctor appointments. I sign the kids up for daycare. This is Carly's second daycare that I've gotten her enrolled. I tried getting her in preschool, and that's why Carly will be 4 here soon. I didn't know that her birthday, because the month that it falls on that, she can't go to preschool until next year because of the month that her birthday is in.
All right, I kind of cut you off by asking questions. Well, I have other questions. So since when the two of you separated and were doing week on, week off, I know you said there were some concerns that he wasn't spending much time. Do you have other concerns regarding how the week on, week off went?
So at the beginning, when we started doing week on, week off, I wasn't aware because like there's a lot of, not much communication when that starts happening, and that was a change. So not seeing your kids every day. Daycare actually brought it to my attention about the kids' hygiene when they'd go to daycare. And Brandon has his babysitter drop the kids off because he leaves earlier for work before daycare opens to drop them off, which is at 8, and that's when they serve breakfast. That's what we agreed on, to drop them off at 8 a.m. They were brought to my attention about Carly's got, hair longer than her shoulders, that she was having, really big rat's nest in it, that they were trying to brush it out and get it out as much as they could without making her cry. Clothes being worn the next day to school again, being dirty, not being bathed. I did bring this to Brandon's attention. He said he would talk to his mom and get it taken care of. And then, months moving forward, when I did start picking the kids up, that was after daycare a few times when I would, take them to appointments during Brandon's week, or that's kind of when I noticed like, oh, that's the same clothes you wore, Sunday when I gave you to dad the next day, because Little Sprouts has an app that they post pictures of the kids time to time. And I would see Carly wearing the same outfit that I sent her to dad's in yesterday, the day before. So that caught my attention. And then, her hair, I would notice it, or the rat's nest in it, I'd feel it, the knots underneath. And I would just see her when I'd pick her up in the appointments to take Carter her. And then October came when I was picking up those few times. I'm like, oh, you didn't get a bath halfway through the week already. So things were starting to, come together. And like, we talked about this months ago, but it really wasn't taken care of. And then Brandon's always had his babysitter pretty much be the middleman. I haven't really had much interaction. There's a lot of miscommunication because of the middleman. I did ask the babysitter one time when she came to the house to get the kids for Brandon if they needed clothes over there, because I had, extras, or I could send some stuff over there. She said Carly was good for the most part. Carter, he pretty much didn't have much, and he had 24-month clothing, which at that time Carter was outgrowing 2 teeth, almost 3 teeth. So I sent a lot of clothing over there to provide for him. So I made sure Carter had the right size clothing, and because the season was changing, and this was in September. And when Brandon and I split the clothes evenly. I left clothes at Brandon's house for the kids. I didn't just leave him nothing for the kids. I knew when we split, one of us would have to buy one of the kids a bed. He did have a mattress for Carter. A month later, after we already split, I realized Carter still didn't have a bed at his house. He was still using a pack and play for him. That was a really big argument between us about it. There's just a lot of things I noticed Carter kind of got pushed to the side that he wasn't getting provided.
Your job, is that a job you intend to remain at for a while, or you plan different things moving forward career-wise?
Yes, if you actually look in the last page of that binder, I'm an ER tech right now. I'm going back to school here in this winter to go back to school to finish my nursing degree. And my job is I get to make my own schedule. So each week I make my own schedule, flexible based off what's going on with the children. Carly is full-time at Little Sprouts. Carter isn't full-time available to go there until February. So he's like, they tell me what days he's available to go each week. So I make sure I work on those days that he can go. And then I have 2 backup babysitters, my mother and my cousin, to watch him. I'll ask. So I always have a babysitter for him. And I just base my weeks off each of those days and make my schedule.
So your request that his pairing time be kind of the standard pairing time of every other weekend, or
Yeah.
type of?
I told him we could keep the every other weekend if he wanted. And like I've been telling him for how long, he is more than welcome and have access to the children. He knows he can FaceTime them whenever. When he does FaceTime them, it's because I pick up my phone and say, "Hey, Carly, you want to FaceTime Dad?" And that's when he FaceTime. If he does answer, it's not because he reaches out and interacts. It's because I'm reaching out. And if I take him to an appointment, it's not because, and he knows about the appointments. I've always told him when they are. He's never asked to go to them, and even after the appointment happens, he doesn't say, "Hey, how does the appointment go?" It's me reaching out to tell him. And he turns it around and says, "I'm holding the kids for him," or "I didn't allow him to do something," or I've never told him no. I've never told him that he can't be involved. It's by choice. It's what he chooses to do.
He typically available on weekends?
Yes. Brandon does not work weekends unless, my understanding at this job, because he doesn't work for Beckman anymore, that unless they ask.
Do you have all your weekends off, or do you work some weekends?
I work every other weekend unless, for some reason Brandon doesn't take the kids for that weekend, then I will change my work schedule to accommodate for the children because I have daycare during the week.
What are your thoughts on if he were to have an extra weekend, maybe, 3 out of every 4 weekends or something like that, given his difficulty during the week with his work schedule?
That's if he would actually want them, yes. I mean, I've taken them quite a few times that I've tracked on his weekends for him. It's just, and I've noticed a reoccurrence that, so Brandon's girlfriend has a daughter, and he only wants the children when she has her daughter. So it's inconvenient to him and her to have the children when she doesn't have her child. So, and that, like, the one week I asked him, "What days do you want the kids?" He picked Thursday. He only wanted Thursday to take the children because she had her daughter. And apparently must have taken vacation that week. They had the whole week off or something. I don't know. And they only chose one day to see the children, to see his children. So I was kind of confused by that.
Ma'am, are you asking then, so I can't admit the reference letter and then the portion that's addressed to me, the other documents look like they potentially are admissible. Are you asking that remaining documents be admitted as an exhibit?
Yeah.
Mr. Fournier, do you have any objection to those documents being admitted as an exhibit? I'll need you to unmute and let me know.
I don't agree with the parenting time of her documents that she has of her.
Well, I understand you don't agree with
schedule.
I understand you don't agree with the content or her proposal, but I'm just asking if you have any legal objection to these being admitted as an exhibit.
As an example,
Just no, an exhibit. I'm not asking if you agree to what she has in there, but she has provided, a parenting plan, some text messages, and then a breakdown of parenting time. Do you have an objection to the admission of those documents as an exhibit?
no.
Okay, all right, so I will admit, I'm going to remove the reference letter as well as the letter addressed to me, but I will admit the remaining documents as plaintiff's exhibit A. All right,
Okay.
thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Martin, back to you. Do you have anything else that you want to say?
I mean, there's a lot to say, but I put so much into that, the paperwork that you have there sitting in front of you.
Sure, I'll review that, but this is obviously your chance, to make a record of anything else that you would like to say.
Yeah. My biggest thing was I just didn't understand why it was fair for the children to sit with a babysitter during Brandon's week when he's so set on doing week on, week off. It's not like I was taking away from his parenting time when I asked for me to spend time with him until he got off work. So I wasn't taking from his parenting time until he got home. That's all I was asking from him. That's why. So I just was asking. Now I'm just asking for, me to make full decisions for them. And he's still more than, from here on out, still more than welcome, say, "Hey, I'm home from work. I want the children." I would love for them to spend time with him, but that's just it.
So if he were to, instead of using the babysitter, I think is the issue, if he were to use you until he got home from work, is that something you're interested in now or not?
Yeah, that's been the issue. It's during his week, he just doesn't get home until, they're almost in bed or already in bed, or the babysitter's making them dinner and then they're off to bed or not getting bathed every day. That's why I just asked if, I get off at 4. We live 7 minutes from each other. I told him I would bring the kids to him right when he got home. That's all he had to say. And 2 days into it, he got upset because I wouldn't respond to his babysitter to bring him home. So
When you say the babysitter, when you say babysitter, are you referring to his mother or someone else that was also working as a babysitter?
yeah, his babysitter is his mother. The kids go during the week to Little Sprout, and then his mother picks them up when the daycare closes and watches them for the remainder of the time.
What time does the daycare close?
They have to be picked up by 4:30.
Okay. Anything else you would like to say?
Not at this time.
All right. All right, sir. So you have the right to ask questions of Ms. Martin since she is a witness and you're the other party. Do you have any questions you wish to ask her?
Not offhand, no. There's just other stuff
Okay.
that I would like to.
Well, I'm going to give you a chance to testify yourself, so we'll get to that next. All right, so Ms. Martin, you don't have any other witnesses, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so sir, we'll turn to you then. Would you please unmute and raise your right hand? You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, okay, so this is your opportunity then to let me know what you want to say in support of your request.
So I think communication is the biggest part, but as for me wanting week on, week off, and her wanting full custody other than every other weekend, I just feel like it's a lot of moving around for the kids. They're spending a lot of time in vehicles and everything. I don't feel it's necessary for all of that. My house is more than safe for them. They do get baths at my house every night. They have dressers full of clothes that fit them. They're very well taken care of. It's not just a babysitter. It is my mother. It's their grandmother. And it gives my family time to see the kids when they're at my house, including my mom, my other relatives, my sisters. They all like to stop by and see them when they're with Emily. That's not able to happen because it's just out of their way and she doesn't have their numbers and whatnot, not in contact with my family. And as for the living arrangements and work, yes, I do work a lot. On my weeks when we were doing week on, week off, my work after I worked at nights on my week, I told them I need an agreement on my weeks. I'm home every night. I don't work out of town, don't work nights and everything. And they said, that's perfectly fine. We won't have you do that again on your weeks so that I can spend time with my kids, be home with them. But the house that Emily bought, I am on with her and I keep getting notifications from the bank stating that she is delinquent on her payments, which is understandable because she doesn't seem to work very often. She's 8 hours a day. I get it. That's a normal person's job, but she has a mortgage that she needs to pay to provide for our kids and put a roof over their head, which is what I'm doing with my job. So I feel it's necessary to have to work the hours I work to be able to provide for my kids. When I brought that up to her in a very polite way, I just asked her if, the bank messed up or anything, or if she was behind on the mortgage. She started talking about after work she's going to return.
1 second. 1 second. I see that we might have lost Miss Martin, so I don't see her in my Zoom hearing. So let's take a quick pause and let her get signed back in.
Okay.
All right, she's coming back. So 1 second. All right, Miss Martin, we lost you for a second. Are you back and can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right, no problem. I stopped Mr. Fournier when I saw that we had lost you. So, sir, you can restart. Thank you.
Okay. So when I brought that up to her, it would have been October 27th. She said after work, I'm returning the ROPA form for Carter and whatnot. And that's not at all what I was asking. I was just trying to communicate about the household that she provides for our kids and make sure that's paid for so that they have a roof over their head when they're with her. And I just don't feel like my work should be getting held over my head because I have a job that, yes, I tend to work longer hours to provide for my family. And I just think as far as the parenting time goes, it's not just a babysitter. Like I said, it is their grandmother and she loves spending time with them. And I don't always know what time I'm going to get home from work. And it's very, very inconvenient to have them brought to daycare, picked up by their mom, brought to their mom's house, picked up or dropped off at my house, when they can just come straight to my house that is more than stable for them to be at. And when I get home, I'll be able to care for them. They have, Carly has her own room. It's the same living arrangements as my girlfriend has a daughter. The Carter shares a room and Carly has her own room as the oldest. I think just 50-50 across the board is more than fair. And I like her holidays and all that. I think that seems very fair to rotate everything outside of the parenting time. I just think it should be week on, week off, and we should continue to practice that. And yes, if she would like to take them every now and then on my weeks, if I'm working late, I can let her know and we can communicate about that so that they can spend some more time with her, because I understand where she's coming from as a parent. It is hard not having your kids when you get home and whatnot.
Okay. So you look at that parenting time schedule and her holiday schedule, you think that looks reasonable and would ask the court to adopt that as the alternating holiday schedule?
For the holidays and birthdays and all that, yes. Just every other weekend, it doesn't seem fair to me. I'm still their father, and I'd still like them in my care. It's my mom. She watches them at my house, so they're at my house where they're comfortable at and everything when my mom has them.
Tell me about your job. How long have you had it?
I worked at Beckman for just over 2 years, and then I work at Excel Site Rentals now. I've been there 6 or 7 months. I work on the oil rigs, but we work in state. I never leave the state. On my weeks, I'm home every night. I actually haven't worked out of town since I came to Excel. They don't do a whole lot of out of town work. So it's just drive time to and from location, because I live in Gaylord and the shop I work out is in Kalkaska, so just right there is 45 minutes, and then it can be as far as an hour and a half from the shop to our location where our rig's at.
When do you typically leave the house to start your workday?
I typically leave here about 5:30ish.
Okay. If you have the kids, then how do you handle them getting to daycare?
My mom comes here because when I have my kids, my girlfriend also has hers, which is the babysitter for my girlfriend's daughter. So my mom would just come here a little bit early, and I always, try to catch her up on if the kids aren't feeling good or what have you.
All right, so your mom comes to your house when you leave for work, and then she takes them to daycare when the daycare opens?
Correct.
And then she also picks them up when the daycare closes and brings them back to your house, correct?
If I'm not off working time, yes.
When do you typically get off of work?
I'm normally off work about 4:35ish, but then we have our drives back to the shop and then home. So I normally get home about 6-7 o'clock sometimes.
And it's your testimony that you're able to work your schedule so that you would not work nights during your parenting time if you had weekday parenting time?
What was that?
If you had weekday parenting time, it's your testimony that you can make sure you're not working nights. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are there times where you do have to work nights?
I've only had to work nights that 1 week, and that was it. They have a whole crew that works nights on our drill rig. They just needed someone to cover. So I went and covered for them.
So that's not typical.
No. I have a set workover rig that we just service oil wells, so I'm working during the day.
Okay. Your current residence, how long have you lived there?
We've lived here 3 years, over 3 years.
That's a rental, is that correct?
Correct.
And what's your future plan for residence? Do you plan to keep renewing that lease? Do you plan on looking somewhere else?
I plan on buying after Emily refinances her house.
And what area do you plan to buy in?
In Gaylord. I plan for us to stay living close so that it's very easy for both parties to be able to be there for the kids if need be.
Okay. Do you have any mental or physical health issues that impact your ability to parent?
No.
Do you have any concerns with the moral fitness of Miss Martin and her ability to parent?
No.
Was there any domestic violence in the relationship between the two of you?
No.
When the two of you did live together, Did you help out and assist in kind of the kids, raising the kids, or was that more based on work situation and when you were available?
It was more based on work. If I was home in time, I would, give the kids baths and whatnot and get them to bed. Emily would do a lot. She would do everything while I was at work. So,
Okay.
um,
On weekends, were you doing some of those things?
yeah, I normally got up in the morning with them so she could sleep in, and I would take care of them during the weekends and everything. And we would normally plan stuff with the kids on the weekends, so we would both be a part of them and taking them to do stuff. It wasn't just one party or the other.
How many bedrooms in the residence?
3.
And you said you've got a girlfriend that lives there and she has a daughter, is that correct?
Correct.
How old's her daughter?
1.5 years.
What are the bedroom arrangements then for the children?
Carter shares a bedroom.
So now when you have had the kids, since you've been separated, on weekends or times that you're home from work, do you feed and bathe the kids or does somebody else do that?
I'm generally the one that bathes them. Once in a while, if we're outside playing or whatnot, and my mom's the one that has them at that time after daycare, she will give them baths just so that they aren't sitting in dirt and everything. I make dinner quite often. If the kids are getting hungry and I haven't gotten home yet, my mom will make dinner.
How about, scheduling doctor's appointments and that type of thing? Is that something that Miss Martin typically did, or is that something that you also assisted in?
When we were together, you would take Carly to doctor's appointments and stuff when she was younger. And I'm more than happy to take them to doctor's appointments and Carly's therapy and stuff. That I even offered to take Carly to the therapy. But Emily said she would because it was Carly's intake session and whatnot. So, a lot of times when I ask if I can have the kids the whole week, if I know what my week's looking like, she tells me, no, you're not getting them a whole week. So,
Is it accurate when you guys first split up that you were doing week on, week off?
yeah, for the first few weeks, I would just get the kids a few nights here and there because I was living with my friend's dad. But then I moved back in the rental when we signed on that house and Emily moved there. And then we were continuing, we started the week on, week off, and there wasn't any issues up until, like Emily said, with her getting them from daycare and whatnot. And she had to, that day I had my mom go pick them up. The first night she got the kids from daycare, I, you know, she fed them and whatnot, then brought them home, which cut time out of me spending with them and my parenting time with them. And then the second day, I told her never mind, and she ended up keeping the kids and told me I wasn't getting them back when she called the cops to go get the kids from my mom.
Did the police actually get involved or did you guys resolve that without the police?
Well, as far as I know, Emily talked to the cops and I talked to the same officer she talked to, and he said he very strongly advised her not to go get the kids, that it's just going to make matters worse. But no, nobody can hold the kids from a parent. So she went and got my kids from my house.
Okay. And then in October, you guys did not do week on, week off, is that correct?
No, there was a few times I asked if I could get them for the full week and everything, and she just told me no. I can get text messages to prove that and everything, and just continuing to threaten Carter and that he's not my son and whatnot, and I just don't feel that's necessary.
There is a court order that says you're dad for both kids. So, any issues with that are going to have to be, if the parties have it, are going to have to be done through a separate motion and a separate proceeding.
Okay.
So you're asking, though, at this time, you're asking for parenting time with both children, correct?
Correct. He is my son, and that both of them are my kids. That'll never change, and I would just like to continue the 50-50, and we can adopt her holidays and what she has wrote down for that stuff. I think that's fair. I just want 50-50 week on, week off, and 50-50 physical and legal custody.
Was there a particular day when you were doing 50-50 that you guys exchanged?
Like say I get them to daycare Monday. Emily would pick them up to start her week Monday after daycare.
Okay, all right. All right, sir, I'll give you a chance then. Is there other things that you would like to testify to?
No, that's about it.
Ms. Martin, you have the right to ask questions of Mr. Fournier. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask him? All right, Ms. Martin, you are muted. If you could unmute and let me know if you have any questions that you want to ask Mr. Fournier.
Okay, there. Struggling to unmute it. Okay, yeah, there's a couple things that he mentioned. For one, about his family.
Well, so first you've got the right to ask him questions. If you don't have any
Okay.
questions for him, you do have the right to also provide some rebuttal testimony. So I'm going to give you a chance to provide
Okay.
additional testimony. Do you have questions you ask him, or do you just want to provide additional testimony?
I guess testimony, because everything that he was
Okay.
saying, I have it in that binder there.
All right, so we'll go back to you, ma'am. This is your opportunity then to say anything additional that you want to say, basically in response to this.
I guess I do have one question for him. He made the comment that, he gets home by 6, 7 o'clock. The kids, he's told me that the kids go to bed, 6:30, 7 o'clock at his house. So if he's getting home by 6, 7 o'clock, who's cooking dinner for them? Who's bathing them then? That was another, concern that I was having, that, he wasn't, physically there to do these things for the children during the week. That's why I was offering, for me to keep them during the week and then bring them home when he was home.
Mr. Fournier, if you could unmute. So that's the question that was posed to you about the schedule.
I don't always work that late. That's once in a while. And like I said, once in a while, my mom will make dinner and bathe them and everything. It always gets done. The kids are always cared for. I have a care plan in order for my kids. They're always taken care of. It's just once in a while I do have to work that late. It's not always. So.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ms. Martin?
Yeah. So what time does the kids get fed dinner?
Around 4:35-ish, unless, that's when dinner gets made. And if they're hungry, they're hungry. They all know, they are more than able to show us they're hungry. And if we feel it's getting too late, then we just feed them. But a lot of times, 3 kids, they're all playing all the time. So we try to do it when they're getting settled down or right before bath time, before bedtime. So
you don't have a regular routine schedule of when dinner's ready and made, or bath time?
Yeah, I just said before bedtime, which bedtime's at 7:30, and they get fed before that, and dinner's normally done about 4:35-ish.
Okay, I was just trying to clarify, because you said you would feed them whenever they were hungry, for, let you know. Because on October 2nd was when the issues with the day before the cops got involved. The binder you have in front of you, Your Honor, on the page B30 has the text messages. It states, it has the one from Brandon's babysitter, which is Caroline, asking me to bring the kids home because she was making dinner and she wanted Carly to help, which I believe that text is around like 4 something. So Brandon wasn't home at that time. That was the day that he then texted me 2 hours later, asking me if I got his mom's text, and he was, hours later home, on his way home. But yes, the following day is when I was supposed to go get the kids from the daycare. Brandon sent his mother up to the daycare to go get the kids before I got off work. I called his mom to get the kids from the daycare, I called his mom to get the kids from her. She wouldn't give me the kids. She told me that I need to talk to Brandon about it. I told her that she didn't have any legal guardianship over them. She wouldn't give them to me. I ended up going to the police station. Cop tried calling Brandon about it. Brandon didn't answer when he called the first time. So I gave him Brandon's mother's number. He called her. He said that when he spoke with her, that she said if I went to Brandon's home where she was going with the kids, that she would give me the kids. So I ended up going there, getting the kids. I got the kids. I didn't hear from Brandon until after 7 o'clock. Kids was already in bed and sleeping. And that's when Brandon asked me for the kids. The next day, Brandon went and got the kids an hour after I dropped them off at daycare while I was at work, and kept them.
Any other testimony, Ms. Martin?
Brandon did mention the house payment being late, which I'm not going to deny. It is true. I've had the kids way more than he has. His rent payment is $675. Mine's $1,400 a month. I have the kids way more. I also provide the diapers during the week at the daycare, even on his weeks. diapers and wipes for Carter. I do work 40 hours a week. I don't miss a lot of work. I don't know where that came from. I also wanted to mention Carter had an ER visit recently. Brandon came up to that ER visit, last 20 minutes of it. He said he'd come get the kids later that evening, which he did. He also, during that visit, said he would get Carter's prescription from the pharmacy, and I get text messages sent to my phone from Walmart stating when they are ready. So I sent Brandon a text saying that the med is ready to be picked up and there's no charge. He said he'd be up there shortly to get it. 3 days later, I get a text saying that Carter's med is still ready to be picked up. And this med was not for Carter's upper respiratory infection. This was for his ear infection that he had. Brandon said he didn't go get it because it was not ready, and Carter seems to be doing better now. And I responded telling him that that wasn't for his upper respiratory infection, that was for his ear infection. The issue with that was Brandon didn't communicate with me to tell me that, he didn't go get it. And the pharmacy would have texted me to tell me that it was out of stock, because in the binder there, it has the photos of text messages from the pharmacy, shows the medicine prior to that for his allergy med. It states saying that, the med's out of stock, will be ready 1 to 2 days, and then it shows a following message saying that it's ready by this date. So I knew he was lying about that. He just simply didn't go get it. Carter was sick the one day at daycare, had a fever of 101.8. I asked Brandon, maybe, I didn't know if he was home. I asked him or if he was at work. He just responded back for his mom to go get him. I ended up figuring out a babysitter for Carter, figured out for the next day as well. Because the rule at daycare is they can't go to daycare the next day with, 24 hours free of a fever. Brandon never showed concerns or asked how Carter was doing, any updates, nothing. There's been so many times I reached out to Brandon to tell him about the kids, but it got to the point where, if he was concerned, he would ask. You can't make somebody be a dad. They would do it on their own. Thing that I've also noticed that, when Brandon and I were together during the week, I did everything with the kids, that was always relied on me for the children. It just seems now that he's just turned those, responsibilities for the children and relies on his mother to do everything, cooking, bathing, everything for the kids, driving to daycare, dropping them off, pick them up. I just don't think that's fair. That's not her job. She may be grown up, but that's not her job. And I've never told his family that they can't see the children. They've never reached out and asked. I would never tell anybody that they can't see the children. And also Carly's, she does go to counseling now, just because she's been having episodes of crying. She's drawing, she drew a photo of a self-portrait at school of a sad face. She's stating to the teachers that she's sad. She's come home crying to me that she's sad, misses the foster kid that we had. Brandon claimed that he wasn't seeing any of this. So I did at one point send Brandon a video of Carly having one of these episodes. She's been going to the counselor every other week. I've never told Brandon he couldn't attend to these. He's never said he wanted to go to them or take part in them. I just go to them because, like I said, he's not been reliable about picking them kids up or making sure, they get their medicine picked up in the pharmacy. Or I just want to make sure that they attend these appointments. They're important. But I've never turned him away. Same thing with Carter when he was at the ER. I respond to one of his messages. I'm not saying that you can't go, and I'm not saying you have to be here. It's up to you. I just feel like a lot of that he turns it around on me to try and say that I'm holding him from him or in some type of way saying that he can't be there. I've never said he can't be there. I guess that's, I also want to come at Carly's counseling. That was brought up a lot between Brandon and I. That's also why Carly's emotions that's why we resorted to me picking the kids up after daycare, because Brandon not emotionally being available to Carly during the week. That's why we agreed that I would pick the kids up after daycare to spend more time with a parent versus a babysitter. So she would not maybe, have a parent to express these things to. Carly opens up with me a lot more. I thought this would help her a lot more. She was doing really well that week that I had them 3 weeks in a row when I kept the kids during Brandon's week. And then he didn't want to continue rotation because it wouldn't match the rotation of his girlfriend's childcare parenting time. Other than that, don't think there's anything else I wanted to comment on that he said.
All right. Sir, did you have any other testimony that you wanted to provide?
I did not know Carly was even, I don't remember, I guess, maybe, that I got told she was going to therapy until a few days prior to that, when Emily brought that up. And for a while, when she would schedule appointments, she would always do it on her week when we were doing week on, week off. I am more than able to take time off work to take the kids to appointments, and more than happy to do so. That is not a problem for me. I guess, yes, that a lot of that was just lack of communication, or maybe I did just forget, but I'm more than happy to take the kids to their appointments and attend that kind of stuff with them. And I am there for my kids emotionally. And I think communication would help a lot. And I would still want to continue the week on, week off. And I understand her worries as a parent. It's hard for every parent to not see their kids for, an entire week. And I did attend that appointment with Carter, and by the time I got there, they were just waiting to get discharged, him to get his discharge papers and whatnot. And from my understanding, when I got there, it was for if he did have an ear infection, it could have been him just rubbing it. So if we thought that he needed it, we could go get it. It would be there for the prescription. I didn't know he actually had one. That is my bad. And she messaged me a couple nights ago telling me about how I didn't even care about Carter after that appointment, or after I forgot what day it was, but claiming that I didn't even ask or seem concerned about him about his 101 fever. She had never told me that he had 101 fever, and like I said, when I got to the hospital, they were waiting for discharge papers. And he was playing with toys and everything. I didn't know anything about 101 fever.
Different days.
Okay. All right. So, but yeah, I didn't know anything about, the 101 fever was the day he needed to be picked up from daycare, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about his fever. You just told me he wasn't interacting with kids and he was shivering really bad. No one ever told me anything about 101 fever.
Anything else you'd like to say, sir?
No, that's about it.
And Ms. Martin, do you have any final comments that you'd like to make?
So the Little Sprouts daycare app, it has an app. Brandon has access to it as well. I'm not sure. On Brandon's end, he just doesn't have notifications on for it. He doesn't delete it off his phone. I'm not sure on his end what it is. But they have an app that they use to update on the children. It shows the times that they're checked in, photos that are uploaded, messages that sent to both parents see it. That's how the 101 fever, that's how I knew about 101.8 fever. I knew about it. So he as well should have seen the message. Along with, his amoxicillin that he needed picked up from the pharmacy, the message that he sent. I mean, I can point it out into the binder if you'd like me to, but it's in the text message. I clarified in it that it was for his ear infection. The first time I told him that it was ready to be picked up from Walmart. When they came in and brought the discharge papers, and the nurse said it. What else did he say? He also mentioned Carly's appointment about her counseling. There in the binder, I also put in there the screenshot of the message when the very first message I sent Brandon about that I was going to start looking for Carly for some kind of counselor, play date counselor. Brandon never responded to the text message about it. He ignored it. So that was the first initiative. When I talked to him about it, there was just no response about it. It took me almost a month to find Carly a counselor because of how young she is and for her insurance to find somebody that would take her.
Anything else, Ms. Martin?
No, it's just always an excuse with everything, and that's why we're here.
All right, thank you. All right, so I've heard the testimony from the parties. What I'm going to do is take a brief break, review my notes as well as the exhibit, and I will come back on the record in probably 5 to 10 minutes and put a recommendation on the record.
Okay.
Court is back on the record in the Martin versus Fournier file. Ms. Martin, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Fournier, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, so I've had a chance to review the exhibit as well as my notes and the file. This matter is before the front of the court following a referral after a complaint for support was filed. There was then a consent judgment that was entered, which referred the issues of parenting time, custody, and child support to the front of the court for a hearing. In this matter, the parties have 2 children. There has never been a prior order regarding either child, so there's not need to be a showing of proper cause or change of circumstances. The first matter the court must address is whether or not there is an established custodial environment with either both parents, one parent, or neither parent. Whether or not there's an established custodial environment then sets the standard for when it comes to making any changes to that established custodial environment. A custodial environment is the environment in which a child naturally looks to the custodian for guidance, discipline, the necessities of life, and parental comfort. In this matter, the parties were together for some time, caring for the children together as an intact family. And then in March of this year, the parties separated, initially sharing essentially week on, week off custody until recently when mom has had the primary custody. Given the history of the parties' relationship, the amount of time that they did spend together, and the amount of time that they did week on, week off following their separation, it is the court's finding that there is an established custodial environment with both parents. What that means is that if one party wants to change the established custodial environment with both parents, they have to show that there is clear and convincing evidence that the change is appropriate. Court then looks to the best interest factors in making a determination and makes a ruling on each individual factor, which I will go through the best interest factors. The first factor is the love, affection, and emotional ties that exist between the parties involved and the children. In this matter, both parents have spent time with the children, care for the children, and have certainly formed a bond with the children. So I would find that this factor is equal. Next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to give the child love, affection, and guidance. And again, this factor doesn't necessarily look at who provides more of those needs. It's just whether or not the parties have an appropriate capacity and disposition to provide those needs. And based on the testimony, I would think both parents in this case have provided love, affection, and guidance to the children. And I would find this factor is equal. Next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to provide the children with food, clothing, and medical care. It does not appear that the children are going without those needs in either parent's care. Both parents have employment as well as other support from other people in their lives to make sure the needs are met for the children. Mom has been the one primarily to take the kids to medical appointments, but dad does have the capacity and disposition to do so. Therefore, I would find this factor is also equal. Next factor is the length of time the children have lived in a stable, satisfactory environment and the desirability of maintaining continuity. Again, in this matter, the parties separated in March of this year. Anytime there's a separation, one party is going to have to find a different residence. So the court certainly takes that into consideration when considering the stability of a length of time of a living environment. Obviously, mom's environment is a little bit newer because the parties separated and Mr. Fournier stayed at the rental the parties were in at the time. Mom has now established a new living environment for the past several months. And there's nothing that indicates that that is not an appropriate environment. Therefore, I find that this factor is equal. Next factor is the permanence as a family unit of the existing or proposed custodial home or homes. Both parties have indicated they have new partners and other children in their lives now as part of the family unit at their residences. Both have indicated they intend to stay either in their current place or at least in the Gaylord area. Therefore, I find this factor is equal. Next is the moral fitness of the parties involved. The moral fitness looks at the ability to parent, and is there some moral fitness issue that is impacting the parties' ability to parent. Based on this record, I don't find that there are any concerns with the moral fitness of the parties impacting their ability to parent. So I find this factor is equal. Next is the mental and physical health of the parties involved. There was no testimony to indicate either party has a mental or physical health issue that impacts their ability to parent. So this factor is equal. Next factor is the home, school, and community record of the children. Given that the children are not in school and are both still very young, this factor is not applicable. Next factor is the reasonable preference of the child. Again, given the children's age, they are not of sufficient age to express a preference. Next factor is the willingness and ability of each of the parties to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing parent-child relationship between the child and the other parent. Parties worked together for a while. There's been some bumps in the road as far as a parenting time schedule recently. It doesn't appear that either party is going out of their way to harm the parent-child relationship with the other parent and the child. So I would find that factor is equal. The last factor is domestic violence. Parties were asked about domestic violence in the relationship, and it was denied by both. Looking at the best interest factors, I don't believe either party has shown that there's clear and convincing evidence that the established custodial environment should be disrupted. Given that there is an established custodial environment and there is a presumption for joint custody, it is my recommendation that the parties share joint legal and joint physical custody with a week on, week off parenting time schedule with exchanges to take place on Mondays. When a party's parenting time ends on the Monday, they would drop the child off to daycare, and the other parent to start to their week would pick the child up from daycare. The court would also adopt the holiday schedule that was prepared by Ms. Martin, and the parties have agreed that that is an appropriate holiday schedule. So we will make that holiday schedule the holiday schedule that the parties follow. That holiday schedule also includes birthdays. So the court will recommend the parties follow that schedule within that parenting plan. A child support recommendation will also be prepared. The parties do have the right to object to the court's recommended order. You have 21 days to object. That information will be provided in the written documents that are sent to you. The only question that I have is, when do we start the rotation on Monday, and with which parent? So Mr. Fournier, what are your thoughts on when we start the week on, week off schedule?
I currently have the kids right now, so it'd be nice if we could just start it next Monday. They would go with their mom.
All right, so Monday the 20th, they would go to mom. Okay. Ms. Martin, what are your thoughts on starting your week on Monday?
I mean, I guess I don't agree with this at all.
I understand, and you do have the right to object. Like I said, that'll be provided in the information that is mailed to you. So, all right, so we will say, since the kids are currently with dad, that the week on, week off with mom would start on Monday, November 20th, and after that, the parties would continue to switch on Mondays. All right, thank you both for appearing today and testifying. Like I said, you will get a copy of the court's order with further instructions if you wish to object. Thank you.
Thank you.